Let's go over the dual fader pair situation on your Express console. Now, in most cases, as we indicated in the basic training, you want to pick one fader pair and stick with it. If you have a two-scene preset console, this is out of a necessity because the AB fader pair is reserved for your manual control. But if you have an Express 250 or a 125, or if your two-scene board is set into single-scene mode, you actually have use of your AB and CD fader pairs as cue playbacks. There are actually some instances where you may want to use both of your fader pairs. In fact, the fader pairs are redundant. They both do exactly the same thing. They operate in a highest takes precedence kind of manner. So I could actually run different cues in each fader pair, and they will run independently from each other. This is useful if I have maybe an effect or a subroutine that wants to run while running the lights for my scene at the same time by pushing go and stepping through additional cues. So I want to show you an example of how that works. But it's key to remember that the two fader pairs work in conjunction with each other, and they are mirror images of each other, and I can run any cue in any of the fader pairs. But make sure you have a system of what you're going to do before that. So the example that I want to show is I have a subroutine built in the console, and I want to go ahead and run that subroutine, which happens to be cue number 1, and I'm going to start that in my AB fader pair. So I hit cue 1, go, and you can see here that my subroutine is running. My AB fader pair playback status indicator says that subroutine 1 is running. It's just stepping through the cues. Now, in the meantime, though, I could, in my CD fader pair, say cue 10, go, and now I'm going to run my cue 10. And I can just continue to hit go in my CD fader pair and run, my front light or back light or whatever I'm doing in the show. All the while, the subroutine is still running. So the two are operating very independent. But again, because I'm working with the same channels, they can actually run in conjunction with each other. For example, when I go into Q12, you'll see that Q12 actually addresses the same channels that are taken over, as indicated there, with the subroutine. So you can see that the cue has them at 50%, and when the subroutine actually addresses the same channels, they get brought up to a level, and then when the subroutine lets them go, they go back down to the level that they were. So it's kind of acting as the highest takes precedence. Some other examples on why you might want to use both of your fader pairs. You can put a cue that is an effect in one of your fader pairs and run it independently. Or if I have a cue that is a very long cue, say a sunrise cue that is occurring on a cyc, for instance, I could start that cue here, and maybe it runs for 15 minutes. But in the meantime, I want to be stepping through cues that are actually running the show. So there's a good example on why you might want to use your AB and your CD fader pairs in conjunction. But just remember, pick a system and stick with it, so that if you're going to run your basic show on your CD fader pair, just be sure and always use that, because you could wind up in a situation where you load the same cue onto both fader pairs, and then you'll have lights on, and it may not be immediately clear as to what's going on. So just be sure and check your playback status indicators here to see what cue is running. That way you'll keep yourself out of trouble on that. So those are a couple of examples and where you may want to use both fader pairs on your Express console.